I wanted to introduce you to style guides and talk about how to use a style guide to really create a brand. So, branding, I know we've been learning about this already, but branding is a name, a term, a design, a symbol, or any other feature that identifies one seller's good or service as distinct from those of other sellers. Where did the term come from? It came from the Old Norse word brander, or to burn, and refers to the practice of branding livestock, which dates back more than 4,000 years. So when you create a style guide, you are directly starting out that process to create a good brand. A good brand has clear focus, knows their target audience, has a defined mission, knows their competition, can identify the key values, can tell their story, has defined brand identity, and is consistent with their voice. So before we go too far, I wanted to talk a little bit about the differences between creativity and innovation, because there's lots of people that are creative. If you have sort of a inspiration and you sit down and you open up Photoshop and you've taken some really cool photos while you were on vacation and you put those photos in, and you can work in Photoshop and create a really interesting collage with a couple of photographs. And that's what I consider to be creativity. Creativity is sort of brainstorming, creating something that's interesting to look at, whereas innovation is more of a process and problem solving. It's the problem solving side of creativity, where you have maybe a specific problem and you have to be innovative to be able to solve that problem with a creative solution. I know that we've been looking at logo design process, and part of the logo design process is creativity and part of it is innovation. You start out doing a lot of research. You think about the company that you're creating the logo for, then you sketch, and then you really think about that target audience as you sketch and what sort of direction you want to take the design into. And you develop your logo really based on that research into the business's specific goals, target audience. And so a style guide is a much more extensive version of this identifying mark. It's a document that really defines how a company presents itself to the world, and it acts as a guide. And many different people might use this guide: branding experts, designers, developers, or any other stakeholder in the company. And the goal is to maintain brand consistency. And the style guide will really demonstrate what a brand looks, feels, and sounds like. So one thing you have to ask yourself, is your brand ready for a style guide? Does it have a mission? Does it have a vision? Does it have a target audience? Does it have a brand personality? And does it have core values? And so that consistent messaging is important, because once it's created, it is very useful when you start to design for your company. If you refer back to the style guide, a lot of design decisions are already made for you. For example, a style guide tells you what colors you can use, what fonts you can use, and then it shows you how specifically you can use things like the logo. So there's many benefits to a style guide, but really the main benefit is it ensures consistency and clarity. It builds trust and reliability, and it creates a relatable public persona. It builds a personality and a unique tone of voice, and that personality is going to really set you apart from the competition. And it defines and really safeguards the brand identity. It ensures everyone who creates content is on the same page. It promotes that collaboration and makes everybody's lives easier that is working on branding your company. It'll also streamline the production of content and help avoid really costly mistakes. It makes original content easier to localize for an international market, and it provides consistent communication across all customer touchpoints and channels. So what are the essential elements of a brand style guide? There are really 6 essential elements: the brand story, the logo, the color palette, the typography, the imagery, and the overall voice of the brand. Brand story. The brand story, it's really a simple summary of what your brand's all about, and it communicates the company's key values to the public, along with its reason for existing. It can also include a brand's target demographic and what problems it sets out to solve, and how the company wants to be perceived by its customers. So a brand story should contain 2 things. It should contain a mission statement. What is your company's mission? It is important that the product marketing and design reflect this. And it also needs to contain vision. Add at least 1 paragraph about who your user is and what the overall vision for the company is. A list of adjectives can also be really helpful, and that should describe your brand's personality. So the recommendation is around 2 to 4 adjectives, and they should specify the writing tone and the kind of personality you want your brand to have. Brand voice. Make sure to specify your brand's voice to ensure consistent messaging. Skype's brand story has a colorful, fun approach to their mission statement. It's engaging and conveys to the audience how it wants to be perceived as a friendly brand company. We'll take a quick look at Skype. It starts out with these really fun sort of bubbles that communicate what Skype is all about. There's a table of contents, and then you see these 2 founders, and they're sitting there, and it kind of gets into why Skype was created. What's the reason for the existence of Skype? Kind of done in a playful, fun way. What if people could transfer their words like a phone without the phone and without the phone bill? So that's sort of the main reason that Skype is around. And so it kind of goes through, and then it defines, what Skype is. It's a piece of software that allows people around the world to talk to each other for free. It gives you its mission. The main mission is to give the whole world the ability to make beautiful, lovely, clear, and free calls. And then it talks about the words they like and the words they don't like. And so you can kind of see as you go through Skype's brand book, and this is a downloadable file for you to look at, that it's really setting a tone, it's telling a story, it's explaining the mission, it's doing all the things that you need to do in your style guide in a very clever and creative way. So you think about voice, tone, and style. Voice is constant. It describes your brand's distinctive personality and what prospects should always think about you. Style is what your content looks like. It includes formatting, grammar rules, capitalization, and more. And then tone is dynamic. It adapts to different scenarios and delivers on the promise of your voice. This is an example of just a company, and you can see in here that this is Annie's, and Annie's was homegrown, founded in 1989, began with the desire to give families everywhere healthy alternatives to traditional comfort foods. Goal was to do everything differently from the mainstream, to show by example that a successful business can also be socially responsible. And so the ideas and the mission, socially responsible, green, white cheese versus artificially colored orange cheese, purple box versus blue box, grassroots evangelism versus advertising, ingredients you find in a kitchen versus those made in a lab. So you can kind of see the stories being told, and there's a clear message about what Annie's is and how it's different from the competitors. So logo. A logo needs to be in your style guide, and that is a really important part of your brand's identity. It plays a crucial role in making your company a recognizable force. So some things that you should specify in your style guide: logo specifications, approved logo color variations, clear zone, the designated area around the logo that must be free of any other graphics or typography, and this ensures the logo's integrity and readability. The minimum size of a logo and placement, alternative versions of the logo. You should also provide client logo files in different file formats like PNG, JPEG, and vector-based formats. So you can see some examples here. And you can see how with ESPEN, they're being very specific. So for the black logo, only use the black version of the logo for black and white applications. The white logo, only use the white version of the logo when the logo is placed on top of a photo. And then reverse logo. The reverse version of logo can be used if the logo will be placed on a white or photographic background. So you can see how strategic this is and how thought out where that placement of the logo should be and what appropriate logo should be used or version of the logo. So I'm just going to show you a few examples. The clear space is the area around the logo. The minimum size is the smallest the logo should be, and the maximum size is the largest, although you usually don't have to put that. Horizontal logos and vertical logos. If you allow your logo to be placed both ways, you should specify that. And then the monochromatic version of the logo. Sometimes that's the grayscale version. If you're a big company, you might have partner logos, and you can specify how far apart you want your logo placed when it's with a partner. And then logo type don'ts. It's really important that if there's things you don't want done, so if you only want specified colors to represent the logo, then it might be important for you to put this in there. And this just tells a designer or a branding team that this is how this logo is supposed to look, and these are the rules they need to follow. Typography. Fonts play a big role in any marketing or sales collateral you produce. It's critical that you have a consistent font style, font family, line spacing, typeface to maintain your professionalism. Make sure to indicate which font or type is to be used, where to avoid confusion. Chosen fonts with heading sizes, establishing hierarchy. An example, Circular Spotify is the primary font. The fallback font A is Helvetica Neue. Fallback font B is Arial, and the fallback font B is sans serif. So you always specify your primary font and your alternate font. These are just some examples. Icons, graphics, and photographs. Include examples of images in your brand style guide that have performed well for your brand. These can be images in print or for social media. If it's an early stage for your company, include images from other big brands you find inspirational to help give your team a sense of the style to align to. And having a central location for all kinds of visuals you need to use for your brand can come in handy when designing new marketing and sales material. And you can see here, in this example, there's good examples of the graphic usage and poor examples. There's examples of photography and then also examples of what not to do with photography. There's icons. There's little graphics that could be used in conjunction with your identity. And colors. We're going to go into that really soon, but color and imagery and how the color is used with the imagery. So colors. You define a brand color palette and include details for your color palette. It ensures design consistency across product design and marketing departments. You want to be accurate in providing your CMYK, RGB, Pantone, and hex color values for digital purposes to remove ambiguity. So RGB is the red, green, blue. CMYK is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Pantone is a specific color process where you would take a color to a commercial printer and it would be a pre-mixed color. Sometimes you make Pantone, or the printer prints your logo in a Pantone color because they can't replicate it in a CMYK color. For example, if your logo or illustrations have a metallic color, that can't be printed using CMYK. So they would then switch to using a premixed Pantone. And Pantones are very accurate. So there's these big books called Pantone books that you can look in, and you can see exactly what your graphic would look like printed in that specific color. And you want to put the numbers in so that it helps designers and other people who are working with your style guide to know exactly what that color is. So notice here, there's a Pantone color, there's an RGB, red, green, blue, which are the computer safe colors or the digital colors. There's a CMYK, which is for commercial printing. And so those are important things to consider putting in. For sure, you want to put in the RGB and CMYK. Additional Pantone is great, and also hex. So you can see here how it's done, just listing those colors, Pantone, CMYK, and RGB. And this is for the Spotify logo. Notice they also do it for the black and the gray and the different shades of white. Because white and gray, you want to be very specific about how it's used with your color. So that's an important step also. You don't just want to specify the color, but also all potential shades of gray that might be used with the color. A style guide is a living document that gets updated. So make sure to keep updating this brand style guide according to any recent changes to your brand identity, and keep all the stakeholders in the loop of these changes. It's important that your brand style guide is easy to find and written in clear and precise manner for everyone to understand. And here are some examples. These are style guide cheat sheets where you can see that the typography, color guide, and logo variations are specified, so it's just easy for someone who's designing to look at these. It's another example. So that's a style guide, and if you continue in graphic design or actually become a graphic designer, you will most likely be making these style guides almost every time you do identity work for a client.